This is the scariest lockdown experience I have ever had, and it still gives me chills to this day. But before I say the story, make sure to subscribe. It was sophomore year, maybe mid-November. It was cold, the kind of cold that sneaks in even through the windows. You know, when the air is so dry it cracks your lips and the heat in the classrooms just doesn't seem to do much. I was sitting in my history class, Mr. Donovan's class. He was one of those teachers who thought he was hilarious, always cracking jokes. Mostly dad jokes that weren't really funny, but he laughed at them anyway. We were halfway through a test, and the whole class was kind of zoning out, the only noise being the scribbling of pencils and the occasional cough. And then that sound. The loudspeaker crackled to life, and that voice, the one that always sounds so calm and distant, came through. Attention, students. We are now entering a lockdown situation. Lock your doors and stay inside the classroom. I repeat, lockdown situation. Lock your doors and stay inside the classroom. At first, I didn't think much of it. Lockdowns happen sometimes, right? I'd seen drills before. Everyone kind of tensed up for a second, but we were used to it. We all knew the routine. Mr. Donovan stood up quickly, his chair scraping across the floor. He told us to stay put, keep quiet, and follow the rules. His voice was a little too tight, though. Maybe it was just the tension of the drill. But then I heard something else. A soft knock. It wasn't on the door. It was on the window. It was so quiet, almost like someone was tapping gently, like they didn't want to be heard. I looked up, and so did everyone else. The window in the corner of the room, big, long, the one that looked out over the courtyard, was covered by thick blinds, but there was still enough of a gap to see a little through. And then I saw something, a shadow, a tall figure standing just outside, staring in. I couldn't see their face. The lighting outside was dim, just the soft yellow glow of the hallway lights reflecting off the glass. But I could tell they were tall, like unnaturally tall, and their outline was too still, too stiff. For a second, I thought maybe it was a teacher or a cop, someone involved in the drill. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. That's when Mr. Donovan got weird. He looked at the window and his face, it dropped. His eyes widened just a fraction, but enough for us to notice. He didn't make a sound, but he moved towards the door and locked it. We were still supposed to be doing the test, but his focus shifted. I remember he moved so quietly, like he didn't want to draw attention to what he was doing, but I saw it. He checked the door handle, tested it twice. His hand was shaking, but it wasn't obvious. He just kept glancing at the window, looking at the shadow, then back at the door. I could feel the air getting thick, heavier, and then I heard it again. The tapping, but this time louder, like someone was knocking, harder. And there was a new sound too, a dragging. Something scraping along the ground outside, slow and deliberate. That's when I realized this wasn't a drill anymore. I looked around the room. Everyone was quiet, too quiet. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. Even the students who normally joked around, like Mark in the back corner who would crack a sarcastic comment every 30 seconds, wasn't saying anything. His eyes were wide, and his hand was frozen over his test paper. And then came the announcement over the speaker. But it wasn't the principal's voice anymore. It was different. It was distorted, almost like something was wrong with the transmission, like the voice was being forced out. Stay where you are. Do not leave your classrooms. But it wasn't just what they said, it was the way they said it. The voice sounded wrong, too mechanical, like it wasn't human. I don't know why, but I felt this cold dread crawl up my spine. The room felt like it was closing in on me, like the walls were shrinking. And then I saw Mr. Donovan. He was looking at the window again, his expression almost frozen. I could hear the dragging sound again, but this time, it was louder, closer. It was coming from the hallway, from somewhere right outside the door. And then I swear to God, I heard something else. A low growl. It was faint, but it was there. And that's when it happened. The power went out. Everything went pitch black. And I mean pitch black. Not the kind of darkness you get from the lights flickering. This was something else. It was like the light was being sucked out of the room. I couldn't see anything, couldn't even see the person sitting next to me. The only thing I could hear was my own breath. Quick, shallow, like I just run a marathon. Thud. A heavy footstep from the hallway. Then another. And another. I thought I was going to lose it. My heart was racing so hard. I could feel it in my throat. And then right above me, right above all of us, there was the scraping noise, like something was crawling across the ceiling. And it was getting closer. And that's when I saw it. The faintest glimmer of light, just a sliver from the hallway, the light from the exit sign. And then it moved. I saw the shadow, huge, unnatural, but now it was moving. It wasn't just standing there anymore. It was dragging something heavy. I don't know what happened next. I can't even tell you what happened for the next few minutes. It's like my brain shut down. The only thing I remember is the sound of Mr. Donovan whispering, "Stay down. Stay quiet. Don't make a sound." We all huddled in the corner, holding our breath. The dragging noise stopped just outside the door. And then, silence. Total silence. For what felt like hours, no one moved. We didn't even breathe. I could feel the weight of it in my chest, the pressure of the air in the room. And then, just as suddenly as it had all started, the lights flickered back on. But when they did, the classroom was empty. The hallway was empty. No one was outside. Nothing. It was like it had never happened. The teacher was still there, frozen, his face pale. He never said anything. No one asked questions. We just sat there in that eerie quiet, waiting for the announcement to come. But when it did, it was the normal voice again. Calm, collected, like nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Lockdown is over. Please resume normal activities. But normal never came back after that. I still think about it sometimes. Every time a lockdown drill happens, I get that feeling, the one in the pit of my stomach. And the worst part is, I never found out what it was. What was that thing outside the window? Who was that voice on the speaker? And why did the power go out at exactly the right moment? Maybe you don't want to know. Maybe I don't want to know. But if you ever hear that knock, that tapping on the window, don't look. Don't move. Just stay quiet and hope you don't hear that dragging sound. Because if you do, you might not make it out at all. If you watch to the end, make sure to hit the subscribe button.